All right, so we are live.
Yay!
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Staying In with Fae Crate. We're going to be hanging out with some pretty awesome authors who are going to introduce themselves in a minute. But I am Brittany, and I'm one of the co-owners of Fae Crate.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am part of the Fae Crate team. Can you guys introduce yourselves and tell us about your latest books? I don't know who wants to go first.
Who wants to go? I will go. Why not? I'm next to you. So I'm Nicki Pau Preto. I'm author of Crown of Feathers and the sequel Heart of Flames, which just came out in February. Crown of Feathers is about a girl who disguises herself as a boy to join a secret group of warriors who ride phoenixes into battle. There's a complex sister relationship, slow burn romance, tons of world building and history and mythology and stuff. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
That sounds so awesome. And the colors on your covers are like so stunning.
Right?
I love it. I love it. So I'm Romina. I'm the author of LOBIZONA, which was supposed to come out this month, but is now coming out August 4th. And it's basically a fantasy that addresses contemporary issues because it deals with a character named Manu, who is from Argentina, but she and her mom are undocumented. And so she's grown up in Miami in hiding for the obvious reason, but then for other reasons she's not aware of. And then when her mom is arrested in an ICE raid, she's left alone and she goes looking for answers to find out who her father was and what all these mysteries from her past are. And she discovers that it's not just her residency that's illegal, but her existence.
I love that.
Wow.
I have to say that I read it.
The cover has so many pretty colors in it.
Yeah, like hold up that cover again.
Hold it up again. See it.
So beautiful. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. So good.
So I'm Casey Bond. I am the author of When Wishes Bleed, and I just announced the title of my upcoming book, which we're going to discuss a little bit of the Beasties that are in there today, but it's called Things That Should Stay Buried. And I'm really excited to be here. When Wishes Bleed, if you want to know a little bit about that, it's sort of pitched as the Hunger Games with witchcraft meets The Selection. So it's a lot of fun if you're into witchy things and magic and romance. It's your jam. But I'm really excited to talk Beasties with you because aren't they fun?
That sounds so much fun. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I am Maxym Martineau. I am the author of Kingdom of Exiles. It is pitched as Assassin's Creed meets Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, but I kind of like to pitch it as like a dark Pokemon because I'm a nerd and I love video games. Yeah,
How I always think in my head.
It so is. And the main female character can tame magical creatures and then call on them to help her in dire situations. And she gets a bounty placed on her head, and an undead assassin comes after her. And there's a slow burn, enemies to lovers kind of quest going on there. With lots of magical creatures.
Right. Which, if you didn't realize, is the whole point of this panel. It's we're doing a panel on Beasties today, and we're talking about all their books, which include a large variety of magical creatures and beasts. We're super excited about it. But before we get into the panel, we've been having a little bit of fun lately with our very favorite icebreaker game, and we're going to be choosing our own adventure. So what we're going to do is we've got some questions.
No pressure at all. No pressure, right?
No pressure.
It's just for fun. Like you can throw all your favorite things into it.
So what we're going to do is we've got some leading questions that we'll ask you guys, and you'll all pull together a short little story based on these questions. And by the end of it, we should have a little bit of a little story arc. So first off, let's make our own character. You each get to give a physical attribute and personality quirk and one magic power or creature companion. And if you want, we can start with Nicki.
Oh, lucky me. Okay. So physical attribute, personality quirk, and a creature?
Yeah, you can choose any part of the main protagonist if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just
one
one of
trait.
those things?
Okay.
Sorry, am I doing just one of those things?
You can do
Yes.
a physical attribute or personality quirk,
Okay.
and a magic power or creature companion.
Okay. I will make our protagonist a liar, and I will give them a phoenix companion
Good.
because why
Like,
not?
small phoenix or like huge phoenix?
Let's make it a little like fox-sized, a little, on your shoulder phoenix.
Okay.
Nice.
Now you guys are stuck with that.
All right, Maxym, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, and I'll say our liar will probably get themselves into a lot of predicaments. So their magic power will be rebirth because it's tied to the phoenix. So they can restart from a bad point in time.
Ooh.
Nice.
So if they get into a sticky situation and it doesn't go the way they planned, restart.
All right, Casey?
How about a physical attribute that she can? Well, I don't know if this is a physical attribute. She can see through the phoenix's eyes as well. So she can use the phoenix to get like a bird's eye view, or to get, to see if the people are after her when she gets into these predicaments.
And then lie her way out of them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that because she's such a good liar, because she and her phoenix love reading stories. Like, she loves reading books to her phoenix, and so all her ideas come from the books she reads. So every lie can be traced back to a story.
Ooh, that's good.
Oh.
That's good.
I really love this.
This is good.
I love her.
I feel like this should be a collab.
Yeah.
Right here, staying with Fae Crate. Okay, so let's create our love interest. Maxym, can you tell us what they look like? Nicki, can you tell us what their profession is? Romina, now you get to pick the trope. So are they friends to lovers, girls to lovers, enemies to lovers? And Casey, can you tell us some aspects about their personality? So I don't know, who wants to start?
Okay.
Well, okay. So what they look like?
Yeah, and the trope. Like,
I'll go
And
first.
the trope?
How about?
Yeah, someone else go
he's
first.
very honest. He's a very honest and very steadfast person.
Ooh.
I like. See, when you said that, I was gonna say, so then maybe the trope should be enemies to lovers. However, it could also be more tension if they're best friends, and so they're constantly like butting heads because they have such different approaches.
And maybe he's trying to keep her out of trouble.
Exactly. I like that. All right, so we got our trope, we got our guy.
Oh no, what's a job? Maxym, do you know what you're doing?
Yeah,
Look like.
let's say that I feel like he has to be in the protector field somehow. So he's constantly either arresting her or getting her out of arrest or something, right?
I thought maybe her English tutor or something, like the person who helped her with her, she's studying books and stuff. So he's giving her all these bad ideas accidentally,
The unintentional.
Well, that could be the one thing they really bond over is they love books, Like, she gets the worst ideas out of them and he gets the lessons,
I feel like as long as he has tattoos, I'm on board. So let's his physical attribute. There you go.
What tattoo?
And he has to have an awesome speaking voice, to her.
They must be literary tattoos, right?
Yes. Maybe that's what's drawn.
Yeah.
Book quotes.
Quotes.
Maybe a phoenix.
Over here, ooh, older man.
Popular tattoo.
Obviously. Okay, so our main character is looking for something. They need a goal and a motivation. What is their main goal? What are the stakes? Do they have a clue that guides them? We can start with Romina and then go down the bottom and then up to Nicki, and then everybody can add on.
Okay, so I think that our protagonist she's got her phoenix and she likes books and she lies a lot. So basically, I think she probably doesn't have the best home life. And I think she's probably trying to find someone, maybe a sister that she knows is out there. And maybe the phoenix is sort of her scout sometimes, like looking for her, like for maybe it's a twin. Maybe she looks just like her. But she's looking for someone she really loves. And that's why she's using anything she can to get to them.
All right, Casey, you want to add on to that?
Ooh.
And so as she's looking for her sister, she starts looking in all the wrong places and comes upon someone who's committing a really big crime, and the people try to kill her, and he comes to her aid, and you know, the two of them escape together.
Ooh.
Okay. And then he tries to convince her to go like the straight and narrow path to find her family, but she's still attached to this idea of the dark underworld and the ties that they might have. So she goes back on her word with him because she's a liar and starts working on the side for like the black market or something to try and find her sibling.
Because her skill sets are better suited there. You probably think she's a better.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, you guys. Okay. Dark turn. I keep thinking about her love interest and like, is he going to be forced to lie for her or to do something dishonest for her and for the sister potentially? I don't know what yet. I'm just trying to think, you know, who has to change more? Does she has to become more honest? He has to become more okay with lying? Do they kind of meet in the middle, you know?
Probably.
Yeah.
He's going to have to bend a little, right, for her sake. So if she gets in trouble back in the underground, whatever she's doing, then maybe he starts telling lies to help rescue her or help her in some way.
Ooh, that's now I really want this book. It's really coming together. So each of you get to pick or aspect of the setting. Where are we? What does it look like? I am assuming there's magical creatures because, you know, Phoenix, but like, are they more creatures? Can you tell us more about it? The world building that you're creating right now.
Oh, this is hard. Well, I mean, I think I like the idea that there are other magical creatures. Like maybe everyone has a little animal companion, you know?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and that could kind of be. So I wonder what the love interest is.
I love that.
Right?
So somebody wants to give the love interest an animal? Like, magical creature?
I feel like his should be a cat. Like it just
and the bird, the cat and the bird. Like
yes, exactly. It could be a magical cat. It could have some sort of powers associated with it, but it's like very intelligent and there's like as all cats are, like looks down its nose at the bird all the time.
It feels urban fantasy to me. Like so I feel like there's this underbelly, like these black markets you were talking about. I feel like maybe there's some dangerous animals there that are, you know, for sale, and maybe you don't want to mess with them. You know, they've got sharp teeth and scales and wings and you know, creepy things.
That adds up.
And bad parts of town, and you know, good parts of town with bad people in them. And I think it's just like a microcosm of society, but with a dark twist and these magical creatures. I love it.
I just think the question is what the magical creature's connection to the protagonist is, or the character is. Like, is there a soul link? Are we talking Golden Compass style? You know, or are we talking about
that's what my mind went.
Yeah, and about like looking through the Phoenix's eyes, though, that's a different. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Like, can they all do that with their
like familiars?
Yes, yes, they can. Yes. I also think it's funny that if his animal's a cat, because cats are kind of sneaky, right? So it's like a super honest guy, but his cat's kind of a little sly, probably, right? So. Maybe it's like your wishful self, or, you know, like your
I like that.
Personality, maybe. She wishes maybe she could have many lives, or, you know, that she wasn't afraid to die or something like that.
This is so deep.
This is amazing.
So let's create our villain. We touched on them a little bit earlier by accident. But what style stopping our character from reaching their goal, their destiny, you each get to pick a little something about the villain or obstacles that are in their way.
Okay, you want me to start? I feel like maybe the villain is her sister and she doesn't want to be found.
Oh.
So she thwarts her every attempt to find her because she doesn't want her sister up in her business.
Hey.
That opens so many questions.
I am so sad for her right now, though. Sister.
I love evil sisters.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's evil, or maybe it's for her own protection that she doesn't want her to come.
Yeah.
Maybe she went down the dark path first, and she's already way too involved, and she doesn't want her sister finding her there. The question is, how much does the love interest know?
Ooh. Snap. Yes.
You know how they are, sneaky.
You find out that the sister's bad and lie about it to protect.
Right? Is he been protected? Did the sister leave and tell him, watch out for her, protect her, and whatever you do, don't let her, blah, 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 whatever.
Oof.
I love that.
Plot thickens.
Okay, so I think it's now time for our resolution. So do you think our couple will end up together? Will they not? Will they separate? And how would this book end? Like,
yeah, do they reach their goal? Do they figure it out? What happens? I feel like it's going to end up a trilogy, to be honest. But.
Yeah, I feel like it could be like a happy for now, but like they have a whole lot to get through in the coming books.
Right. Yeah, I'm invested in this. I don't know. I mean, I feel like our main character who can regenerate has to die, right?
Yeah.
And for who? For her sister? For her love interest? For both of them?
I almost feels like that this is like a cat. I just blanked on his name. In Inej. I can see Inej, but like Kaz Brecker and Inej kind of relationship going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's a popular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be some kind of sacrifice.
And does he have 9 lives?
Right.
Because he's a cat. So does he sacrifice himself for her as well?
And what's the sister's creature?
Like,
Yeah.
Ooh.
What is it? A dragon or something like, I don't know, something.
Or maybe like a snake.
Snake. The YA, the book snake is big.
Yeah.
Or like a crow, like a.
Or if they're twins, then maybe it's the Phoenix's twin too.
It's a dark
It's
phoenix.
like a dark Phoenix, yeah.
Dark phoenix.
Nice.
This is so great.
Yeah, it's fun. So
I can see like
now and they die.
And I
Like
feel like I
shadow
want
familiars.
Yeah. And I want the sisters to be okay, but it's going to take a long time. Like it's not an immediate resolution in book 1. Like they probably meet, and then she's like, "Don't ever look for me again." And then like,
Mm-hmm.
And then
or
Or she
when
keeps
they
looking.
die, do they like regenerate to the same body, or do they change faces? Like that would be so.
Good question.
So they have to find
That's
each other
awesome.
again, but they don't know what each.
Maybe we don't know this book. Maybe it ends with her dying and we don't know.
Don't know.
Cliffhanger of the year, you know?
Okay. Well, we'll have to figure it out next time, I guess. We'll just hope for book 2.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into some of the questions. We're going to start off with questions that are for everyone, and then we'll slowly move into questions that are not targeted, like specific for each of you. But we are starting off with our favorite question that we've been asking, and that is, can you tell us what your main characters are doing during quarantine?
In my case, it's super easy because Manu's whole life has been quarantine, essentially. Right. So like she's not really doing anything different. She's just reading nonstop, watching telenovelas with Perla, and like, observing from the rooftop as everyone else lives their life. So yeah, so hers hasn't changed. Mine was easy.
No, but like, what book do you think she's reading right now? Because
she's trying to finish. Yes, she's trying to finish Cien Años de Soledad, which is taking her apparently an entire book to read.
It took me a while too.
She was just, poor girl was only trying to relish it. Like, she could have finished it really fast. It's her fault. She wanted to enjoy the writing. Well, this is what you get. It's happened to all of us. We're like, we don't get to the end because something interrupted. And you know what? You should have just read it full tilt.
Right now.
Well, I could say, like, you know, for my world, a little different, like epic fantasy world, but they kind of, the Phoenix Riders are living in isolation anyway. And, you know, worst case scenario, they're just going to hop on their Phoenixes and pew, they can kind of find, you know, quarantine anywhere. So I feel like they're sitting pretty, more or less. And yeah, so I think they're kind of halfway there already. They kind of just like hole up together, but they could, in a pinch, separate quite easily.
Yeah, it's kind of the same in my like epic fantasy world, but both of my main characters are technically exiles, so they aren't like hanging out in regular society anyway. But Lena has like a plethora of beasts, so I imagine she's outside like in her backyard just playing with all of her animals. And Nock is like an avid like oh my gosh, words today. I am so sorry. Like tactician, and he's really into like strategy. And so he'll be inside like playing chess with his like friends and whatnot. She's outside playing with animals.
Okay, so one of my main characters in the upcoming book is Aries, like as in the zodiac, and he is a very powerful and immortal being, so it's not going to affect him very much. And it basically, if he doesn't want a pestilence in his realm, it's not going to happen. So
there is no pandemic as far as
yes, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, not bad.
Love that. So can you tell us what was the hardest or most unexpected parts of writing your novels, and what part came to you the easiest?
For me, beginnings are always easier, and I don't know why. I like to build the world. It seems like the middles are hardest for me, and then the endings are easy again. I'm not sure why, but that's usually what happens when I write anything.
Middle are the worst.
Sagging middle.
Middle suck.
Yes, but I love the beginnings and the endings, and I go back and make it to where I love the middles too. But while you're grinding out that first draft, sometimes that's difficult.
Yeah, for me, it's like the characters in the Beast came to me like fully fleshed, so they were probably the easiest thing for me to write. But I am not a plotter. So like, I know that they're going to get from A to Z, and like, that's really great. Like, but everything in between gets a little mushy sometimes. So it's just great when you're writing like epic fantasy, and everything should like have a trajectory. But you know, I figure it out in edits. So those are always the hardest thing for me.
We figure out a lot in edits, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It does not come out perfect.
Yes.
Oh, who's this character? I'm sorry, you're not here anymore.
I guess for me, the hardest thing has been multi-point of view. I started off with 3, and then the second book jumped to 5. And that's probably why, if you take a look, it's like so much fatter. So the multi-point of view and the length have been my hardest challenges, just because everything takes so much longer. Like, oh, I just have to make this one little change. Just got to go over, 30 chapters, and no big deal. Like, it's everything like an undertaking. But yeah, and the second half of the question is what was easy?
Yep. I love your books because you have like history pages into it, right? So like, did those came to you easy, or like were they the hardest?
Those come to me easy, but they're sort of like, for the first book, it was stuff that I had cut out, and then my editor, or like stuff that I was trying to like, stop info dumpy. So we'd cut some things back, and my editor actually suggested like, why don't we lay them out like little documents or something, just like kind of like appendices or something. Like, we were just trying to think of creative ways to include world building. I'm trying to show an example here, like that.
Nice.
So it was her idea to work with existing material in book 1. Awesome. For book 2, I had to like draft these things. So there was like one more thing on my list of stuff to do, and I was like, oh crap, I have to like, come up with all these documents.
Yep. I know that.
They're fun to do, but it's like they're kind of an afterthought at this point. While I'm drafting, I'll sometimes be like, oh, that would be a cool thing to like expand upon. I'll like make a little list, but they're kind of a separate thing now. And in the first book, they were just a part of the world that I was just kind of trying to cut down and like, separate it out to, stop info dumping. There's a lot of info. Put these back.
I think like what was hardest about, or what was easiest about this book is just incorporating my culture and the language. It was just so easy to like write Spanglish and not have to overthink so much about before the word comes out of my mouth. Like, am I speaking in like sentence structure? It's in Spanish or in English, and which language is it, and all that stuff. So it's kind of nice to like, I don't think I realized how much I needed that until I wrote a book like that, where I didn't, and I realized like, why am I enjoying so much like blah, 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 like, because I wasn't like judging. So I think that was really cool. I think the hardest part was definitely the real stuff, like writing about something that isn't fantasy, because for these children who have been separated from their families, this isn't a joke. The people that haven't made it, the people whose lives these children whose lives will never be the same after the trauma they've experienced. Like, it's really hard. It was really hard because in my first series, everything was fantasy. The villain was fantasy. And so for all of the parallels that we put into our fantasy world with our current one, there is a step. There's like a slight buffer, and I've always really admired contempt authors for their ability to really tackle this stuff, because like it takes so much heart, and I think like that really killed me in the process. Like, cause you can't escape and be like, okay, but this villain doesn't really exist. This villain is real, and these kids are suffering it. And when I turn off this laptop and go do something else, these kids don't have that privilege. They're stuck in those cages, or they're stuck in those situations, or whatever it is. So that, I think that was brutal. And for me, it was my first time writing something like that, and it was really eye-opening.
Yeah, but you balance it really well. Like, it's really well done. And I love all the food descriptions.
Funny you should say that, because I just handed my mom and sister the sequel, and like my mom comes in the other day and she's like, were you starving when you wrote this? She's like, am I not feeding you? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, Mom, like, calm down. This is just like what. She's like, I don't understand. I'm like so hungry right now. And she like comes into the kitchen. It's true. Like, I'm gonna need a whole tub of dulce de leche next to me while I be like.
I love food in books. I know some people are like mixed about it. I love food in books. So.
Me too.
I love that.
And it's fun to put recipes for your readers in the books or on your blog or whatever. Like, I know a lot of people love that. So that's fun.
Isabel Ibáñez just did that in Woven in Moonlight. And the back of the book, she included all these recipes, because like the meals, the sumptuous meals she describes, it's like you just want to sit there like.
But that's good world building too, right? Like that builds your world. It's so essential to world building. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so what social media do you think that your main characters might be addicted to if they were in today's world? Would they be YouTubers, booktubers, or bookstagrammers?
I feel like Lena would run the We Rate Dogs Twitter account. Constantly post pictures of animals and be like, 15 out of 10 good doggo / whatever the name.
Except it would be like all these fantasy creatures. Like it would be
The rest of it, I don't know. I mean, like, one of my side characters is kind of a flirt. So maybe something on YouTube. I don't know, like where his personality could be like really out there. But other than that, I don't know.
Could you see him answering questions like, like those encounters like, dear blah blah blah, and you like, what do you advise for like my romance troubles? Sarcastically.
I love that. Maybe I need to like start like a little fake account for that.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Like, he has to have like a nickname. Like, nobody has to know it's him, but like, that's a secret.
Does it for pleasure on the side, just like anonymously, just for fun.
Yeah. Well, and he's a too, so I could see him doing it. Just for.
I mean, you shouldn't joke about this stuff. One of my characters appeared on LinkedIn. I'm not even joking. Like, I swear, like, I was like, what is this?
You manifested them.
Like, did I exactly? Literally. I was like, please, like, why can't you appear on my dating app? Like, what's up? I don't need a job from you. But yeah, that's really funny. I think Manu would probably do Wattpad, maybe. Like, I think she would be doing fan fiction, you know? Like, come on, like, let's be honest. What else do you do? Like, she's doing
I also like Bookstagram.
Yeah.
Bookstagram's awesome too. I don't know if she's a photographer, but like, I think she would enjoy it like consuming it, you know?
Yes.
Oh my God. It's funny. I have a hard time doing this with my characters, but when I think about the two sisters, like the one is a total like egomaniac and narcissistic, and I could see her forcing her sister to like be her like Instagram wife or Instagram husband, like her take all the photos and like, you know, like her little poor long suffering assistant, like running
do all the memes and recreate all the whatever, like
making her do it. Like she's way too lazy and way too like to do it herself, but she'd happily like have her face everywhere on a feed or something. So maybe that.
I'm gonna go with Snapchat. Because my girl likes taking pictures, and it's like sort of instant gratification back and forth. So I'm gonna go with that.
I love that. So another fun question is: if your main characters landed themselves in a karaoke bar, what song would you sing?
I mean, obviously, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Like it's just, or She Wolf. I mean, one of the two.
Oh my God, that's good.
In Spanish or in English? I feel like in Spanish it would be
in Spanish. Yeah, of course.
I feel like I have to say I See Fire by Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's a very good karaoke song, but it feels right. Feels right.
She would tell it. She would get into it.
I'm gonna say Counting Stars by One Republic, but I'll say this, like I don't know about you guys, but I keep playlists while I'm writing, and one of the songs I had on repeat was like JP Saxe and Julia Michaels, like If the World Was Ending. And that song is like hits me in the feels. Like I love that song so much. So
it's really great.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know if I have like a specific song for either of them, but I've said time and time again that if anyone could write the soundtrack for my books, I would want it to be Halsey. So like if she, I feel like Lena could own some of those songs, but they're all about breakup. So it's like, or like really tough romantic situations. And like at first, 100%. So like it has to be early Kingdom of Exiles for Lena in a karaoke bar.
I thought it was like Mariah Carey or something fun, but it doesn't really seem to apply. I don't know. But why not?
She cracked me up.
Yes, babe. I see you, Amanda.
All right, so each of your novels contain a variety of magical creatures. Can you talk to us about some of the inspiration for the creatures in your books and which were the hardest to craft? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go. So I actually, before I got my degree in English, I started off as an animal behaviorist. And so I was very interested in just the behavior of animals and the anatomy of them. And then also, as I mentioned a bit earlier, kind of obsessed with Pokemon and he started a video game. So I would say that very much my love of animals and then the Pokemon craze, both as a child and then researched again as an adult, influenced my creatures. And there are a lot of them. So sometimes I don't even realize that I'm subconsciously drawing on like a creature, and my editor will, fortunately, who is also very versed in Pokemon and all things nerd, will flag me and be like, "This is Magmar. You should probably change this." And I'm like, "It is. Thank you." So yeah, I would say that. Pinterest, obviously, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was a big one. But yeah.
Do you keep like a little like directory or something? Like, do you have them all somewhere? Yeah, that must be.
Actually, I started like a living Word doc with every creature that I came up with, some physical attributes, what it took to tame them, and then I would pin some like images from Pinterest. I'm trying to like find the example right now as I look down.
I totally stalked your Pinterest and I did see that.
Yeah. And so then I just did it for myself so that I wouldn't write the same creature with like the same power or anything like that. And then my editor's like, oh, you have this? Well, let's put a bestiary in the back of your book. So I have like in the back of my book, there's like an appendix. So when you're talking about stuff like this additional stuff that you had to write, 100%. And so like they incorporated little sketches in here and created these trading cards. So yeah, like one of the main beasts is a Laharak, and so they did like a little drawing in there. And yeah, so
that's awesome.
This is thick. Like there's like more than 25 beasts referenced in book 1. So I had to come up with an entry for every single one. And then in book 2, there are additional beasts, so the bestiary will get bigger with every book as well.
Nice.
So,
you need a coloring book.
I know. I want a coloring book, especially since they have the artwork, and I'm hoping they continue, like fingers crossed, to produce more. I like beast trading cards that I hand out.
That's
I hope that they create more of them so that I can have those out there.
Nice. I'm geeking out. I love that.
Yeah.
That's one of those things you're like really excited about at the beginning, and then you're gonna hate it by like, you know, a series goes on, you're like, crap.
And then I realized, like, when I was writing the bestiary itself, it was like another like week's worth of work compiling everything, because I like just like word vomit an entry and move on, and then be like, oh, in this entry you use this tense, and in this entry you use this tense, and it's like, oh crap, like I didn't write these like stream of thought.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess I could say for me, like it's mostly just phoenixes in my world. And I really just like, I wanted them to be recognizable as phoenixes. So like, I didn't want to go too off, you know, in my own direction with them. So I kind of, you know, I did some preliminary research. Just a lot of cultures have like a phoenix or firebird creature, which is really cool. And they have a lot of similar attributes. So like the fire, obviously, resurrection, and being related to the sun. So I kind of just took those because, again, I wanted it to be recognizable as a phoenix. But then as I was writing my story, I kind of just made certain changes really just to serve the story. Like I remember at the beginning, I wanted to start with hatching a phoenix egg, which I don't even really, most stories don't talk about like the first phoenix, right? Like they just regenerate. You don't really know like where they started. So there's phoenix eggs in my book, which is very much like, you know, I borrowed a lot of dragonish stuff too, for sure. And the phoenixes are hatched in like a fire of bones, just because in theory, if a phoenix resurrects, it's like burning its own bones and body to make a new body. So just in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, they need something to feed the fire. So like little stuff like that, I just came up with, again, to serve my story and to serve the things I wanted to happen in the book. And it's just, you know, grown with each book I write. So, but I tried to kind of start off with like a generic template because, again, I didn't want to make like, you know, like a green bird that shoots lightning or something, just something that's completely unrecognizable. Like it needed to be, oh yeah, it's phoenix, familiar. I didn't want to like reinvent the wheel or whatever, at least initially. And then I just kind of, you know, the magic that involves the humans too, like just little things kind of made it its own thing. But yeah.
So in things that should stay buried, it sort of starts out almost with a post-apocalyptic feel. Like it starts out, it's in our world, and basically, you know, we're kind of curious as humans, and somebody pokes their head in the wrong tomb and unleashes these mythical creatures, the zodiac. And so each zodiac sign is actually a creature here that once ruled the earth. And so each of them have their own attributes. So like, you know, with Aries being the main character, you know, he's got the ram's horns, and Libra is not a woman with scales. She is a scaled woman. So she's a snake, and you've got the double-headed Gemini, and it's just a lot of fun. I love the beasts and the monsters. So, but I had to keep, I was like you with your, I can't tell which way I'm pointing. With your book, to keep track of all your creatures and their powers and what they could do. You know, I keep a notebook. It's like slammed full of notes that I've added, and pictures from Pinterest and sketches. I can't sketch, but you know, sketches. You know, but it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to make them, and then to add the you know, traditional personality traits that are associated with those signs was a lot of fun.
So the creatures of LOBIZONA are actually very tied to the lore, because I basically took this existing law in Argentina that says that it's the Ley de Padrinazgo Presidencial, which essentially states that the president of Argentina becomes godparent to the 7th consecutive son or consecutive daughter in any Argentine family. and they cover their educational expenses. So it's like a real thing, you know? And I found this out as a teen, and I was fascinated. Like, I was bugging my mom nonstop. I'm like, but why? But why? But why? But why? But why? Like, why is it the 7th? Like, who cares? You know, like, that's so, and why consecutive? Like, that's such, and why is it about the sex of the baby? Like, that's so arbitrary. Like, I just was like obsessed, you know? My mom's like, I don't know. And so, of course, I start looking into it, and it turns out like there is a big debate actually about why this law started, you know, and there's like a lot of people who attribute it to a superstition, and then a lot of people who get mad by that attribution and actually cite some dignitaries that came to Argentina in the early 1900s to stay with the president. And it was a tradition where they came from. So they asked the president if he would become godparent to their 7th boy. However, I would argue that even if that's how it originated, where did it originate there? You know what I mean? Like, somewhere it definitely originated from a superstition. Is my point. But I don't know if anywhere else took it to the degree of Argentina of establishing this law. Now, I think it's fascinating. And I like try to picture, like, it's not funny, you know, but I do try to picture a little bit the mentality of like what people must have been like thinking about their 7th kid or whatever, that you would actually have to take like a step like that, like to kind of like appease any kind of superstitious beliefs, if that's really what happened. Again, we'll never know. But for me, I thought it was fascinating to create, of course, a fantasy based on it. And the whole idea is that the 7th son will become a lobizon, which is a werewolf, and the 7th daughter will become a bruja, which is a witch. So I basically used that. It was a little hard for me to actually like pass that to actually create now my own version of what is a bruja in this world and what is a werewolf in it, because we have so many iterations of that in the world. Like, there's no one way to be a witch, right? Like, I mean, we've got every way. And same with all of these creatures, right? So it's like, for me, it was new. I know for some of you guys, you've been doing it obviously really thoroughly, but I really did struggle with it because I was like, I don't want it to feel like someone else's, but I also want to be true to me. And like, I'm doing this as a sociological commentary. And like, I'm never going to be able to create the most perfect creature that someone else would, that is their passion, you know? So I needed to keep it as an allegory. And I was very careful not to get too distracted because there's so many messages. But hopefully it still comes across as like a paranormal, you know, fun.
It does. I don't think they're upset and like, why? That's me with my mom. And my mom is like, yeah. So if you could spend a day, do we go to personal questions? Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So let's go to personal questions now.
Yeah. We have everything in a Google file, and so it just kind of glitched out.
Of course.
We were like, okay.
I was like, the question is gone. I was like,
questions that are for each of you. And the first question that we had was for Maxym. You created so many magical creatures. If you could tame one of those creatures and keep it in your house, which creature would you choose? And how did you keep, well, we already kind of talked about how you kept all the creatures.
Like how I organize them. Yeah. Okay. Well, surprisingly, like I actually get asked this question a lot, and I feel bad because I feel like my answer is inconsistent because it depends on my mood that day. I will say that I'm most surprised when I ask other people this question. There are 10 legendary feline creatures in my book, and I expected those to be the ones that people like gravitated to the most, right? Mm-hmm. Especially being an animal behaviorist prior to this, I had a dream of studying large cats. Hence, probably why I decided to create large cats as a thing. But I'm a dog person. I don't get it, but it's fine. So my gut reaction is always to say the Maiad, which is the main beast that Lena is trying to tame in order to absolve like her crimes. And it's a large, like kind of Black Panther, peacock winged creature. However, I have also said on occasion that I would tame a Gruber. And this is the one that a lot of people, I'm surprised, say that they would also tame. It is like a round, pink, fluffy ball that when you squeeze it, it emits like an aroma that helps you fall asleep. So it's just like this cute little cuddly thing, and you snuggle it and you fall asleep. And I think it just speaks a lot to how much everyone in the world wants to have easy sleep sometimes. It's like a big one.
Awesome.
I think one of those, that's for sure.
That's awesome.
So, Casey, we just saw the title reveal for Things That Should Stay Buried today, and it's a gorgeous title. Yay.
Thank you.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about this book, and what's your own zodiac sign? And if you were put in your own territory, would you survive?
Well, as far as the book goes, it's sort of, I don't know, it sort of makes sense right now, since like it feels very strange in our own world, and in this time where we're sort of quarantined and apart. Everything is fine one day, and the next day, because of the actions of someone else, the world sort of crumbles, and no one's lives are their own anymore. And it's a very difficult shock to the system, and something that's very difficult to, and it's hard to swallow, when you're used to having certain freedoms, and then those freedoms are taken away. Basically, when the Zodiac crawl out of their tomb, they are able to claim 1/12 of the earth and claim all the people born under their star sign, whether they're newborns or elderly or everyone in between. And it's very scary. And I personally am a Taurus, and I have a feeling that he and I would not get along because I am like the most stubborn person ever. And I'm pretty sure we would literally butt heads. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he would not like me very much. I'd probably die.
Is the Cancer one a giant crab?
Yeah, well, it's a crab lady. Yeah.
Oh,
she's
I'm
like
Cancer.
Woman from the top until then she's a crab at the bottom. So yeah.
Yikes.
Barnacles and all. Hey.
There we go.
Me and Braid, we're the same sign.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Romina knows lots about the Zodiac too, obviously.
Yeah, so this is my other series.
I had no idea. I'm like, oh my goodness.
No, you're giving me a little PTSD though. Like seriously, like I can even just looking at my mug sometimes I'm like, oh, you're triggering. Like stop, like, go away. Like, and then I turn it around and instead it tells me, oh, well, you are a perfectionist, idealist, like practical. And I'm like, well, thank you. So yeah, I understand everything you're saying, and I love hearing about your book, and I'm totally picking it up. This is amazing.
I read yours too. I understand it was set in space, and that's really neat.
So yeah, I did it differently. Basically, as opposed to creatures, I did planets. So it's just like that's every planetary system. And actually, Nicki was one of the first readers ever to create an edit of my book, and this came out in 2014. You guys, I'm old, and like literally, like I remember going on Instagram, and I was so new to everything, and then she sent me the most beautiful quote edit from it's one of my favorite quotes also that like from the book, so it was like perfect. And I never had my own, like I never had her to do that. And I will never forget it. And I will always be grateful to you.
That is awesome. Okay.
So I was a baby querying writer, and I asked Romina about writing about, because my book before this one was sci-fi fantasy, and that's kind of, what Zodiac was. So I asked her about it, and she offered to read my query. She was so sweet to me. I will never forget that.
I love this.
Sorry, I forgot what we were doing now. Can you answer your question?
I completely forgot. Nicki, this is for you. In the world of Crown of Feathers, we're introduced to a group of Phoenix riders that are extremely rare and have bonds with their phoenixes. How do you go about taking an already made... We asked this question earlier. We went over this too, didn't we?
I just kind of said it.
How do you go about taking an already made creature like a phoenix and making it your own? Maybe we can talk about the bonds.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could expand on it. Like I talked a bit about the phoenixes. I tried to just, make them recognizable, but they changed through, my story. And one of the major ways was the phoenixes bond to their rider. So how we were talking earlier about how our protagonist could see through the eyes of her phoenix, like that happens in my book. And they have this magical, they can read each other's thoughts essentially. But it goes deeper than that. They're connected really like intrinsically, like beyond communication. It's like, they become a part of you, I guess. And that, I ended up developing like 2 kinds of magic for my books. The one is animal magic. So the basic thing is anyone with this magic can communicate with any animal, but they can bond to a phoenix because phoenixes have magic of their own. But then I also made a secondary magic where you can communicate into human minds, and it's kind of like a darker ability. And, my main character is good, and she, hesitates to use that second ability. Her sister is not so good, and she's more than happy to abuse those abilities to the best effect to get what she wants. So I think like even those magical concepts aren't new, right? Like nothing's really ever new. Many people have done even like bonded with like dragons or whatever creatures and being able to communicate with animals. None of it's new, but I guess it's like you combine it the best you can with your story. In my world, you can also bond with other humans. So like things become more complicated as the story unfolds, and then it becomes, I think, more unique. But like Tamara Pierce was a huge inspiration for me. And if you've read her, the Immortals Quartet has like an animal magic thing that's very much like my world. So again, like none of it's new, but I think, you combine the things you love in the story you want to tell, and it kind of becomes its own thing. But yeah, so none of it, and like, the phoenixes, none of it was really wholly original, but I tried to tell, my own version of it, I guess. But yeah.
Okay, so also we kind of touch on this, but Romina, LOBIZONA, while it explores the immigration experience, the fear of alienation, the fear of discovery and alienation, it also has like rich werewolf mythology and magical elements. How did you balance this in your book? Was it?
Yeah, I think that what was important for me was writing the book that I needed to read when I immigrated here, and I felt like kind of creating these immigrant supernatural creatures that were like swoony and powerful and everything, but they just happen to speak Spanglish, felt really already just like so new, which is so silly, right? Because it's like, this is the oldest story in the book, it's like chosen one, you go, you discover yourself, we all kind of go through some version of it, so, but it's crazy how different it already felt as soon as I just like grounded it in just more my culture and made everyone kind of like just more taken out of this like Miami ether I'm in and like just plastered onto this thing. The other thing that also grounded it for the supernatural and the world building, all that, was the fact that it's a girl coming of age story. So periods were very important. Her menstrual cycle, the fact that like every month she feels a little different. I actually have a bone to pick with the whole werewolf trope and the fact that like it's become so like masculine, because it actually, to me, there's nothing that's masculine about it. It's about blood and it's about a monthly shift. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know men got their periods. Like, that's news. Like, I don't get it, And so I actually think it fits womanhood, the womanhood allegory, way better than manhood. And so I thought that was important too. And also that the world building and everything is completely tied to nature. It is a very eco-conscious fantasy, because I do think that that's important right now, but also because borders are man-made. And I think like we forget, like we're all born from this exact soil. So it's like, yes, we live in different worlds, but we're on one planet. So like, you don't get to say that I don't belong on that piece of soil or I belong in this one. You just don't. Like, I don't subscribe to that. I don't believe it, And so it was really important to create a world that reflected that you don't get to own the land. Like, draw all the lines you want. The land does not care.
I feel like this comment right here is so important. Yes, yeah. I love that.
My daughter is 8. We've been talking about it a lot because there's like a new Disney show with like a 10-year-old girl, and like there's like 4 episodes about it, and I was like, this is great, let's keep watching this.
That's awesome.
It's so important right now. Yeah. So, but let's see. I think we might have. I don't think we have enough time to go through all the rest of the questions. Having a lot of fun, but that's totally okay. But we've had a lot of fun with you guys. Let us know when you get done writing that book you guys started at the beginning.
Yeah, the sisters' names are Fae and Crate.
There we go.
Next Fae Crate special edition.
Yeah.
But we've had a pretty fun hour, and we've had a great time talking to you guys. I love all the Magic Beasties and all the of course fantasy aspects of all of it. So I've had a blast hanging out with you guys, and everybody else has been having some fun in the comments. They're all now. So, but yeah, everybody who's watching, if you had someone who wasn't able to watch because of time zones, work, whatever, we'll have this up on YouTube pretty soon, and it'll also be able to watch it on Facebook afterwards as well. But thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.